Are you somebody who really wants a loving, thriving relationship in your life, but finds yourself constantly feeling like you're going from situationship to situationship, or things just never really work out? And you fear this abandonment, you fear the relationship falling apart, but it just seems to be a repeating cycle in your life. Well, if this sounds like you, and if you also notice in full honesty with yourself that you do have some pretty good abandonment wounds there in your own subconscious programming or that really show up in your life, we're going to talk about in today's video why abandonment wounds cue people to discard you. And obviously, this relates to anxious attachment styles, but this also relates to fearful avoidance, who definitely have abandonment wounds. And we're going to talk about how to put this to rest and stop this cycle once and for all. And I'm actually going to share an exercise with you at the end for this. So, first and foremost, biggest question is, where do your abandonment wounds come from? And the answer to this question is that your abandonment wounds actually come from any time in your early experience of childhood where you experienced either real or perceived abandonment. So, what's real abandonment and what's perceived abandonment? Well, real abandonment is if you have two, let's say, parents in your household, and let's say they split apart and one parent actually leaves and doesn't come back. Perceived abandonment would be, or even if the parent moves to a different country and they're not really around anymore as a part of your life, right? That would be like a real version of abandonment. Perceived abandonment is if you have loving parents, but they work all the time or they're not around, or for periods of time they have to travel and you stay with your grandparents, for example. And the reason it's perceived abandonment is that like the parent will come back in this particular case, but because of this inconsistency, your mind actually gets conditioned to constantly feel that love will be taken away. Now, you can also have this happen if there's like a really chaotic parent in your life or person in your life where it's like, let's say somebody, for example, has a drug addiction or alcohol issue. Maybe when they're sober, it feels like they're there, but then when they're under the influence, it feels like they're not there in the same capacity anymore. Like the person you love and know is almost gone. And so anything that's repeated like this, inconsistency, some kind of chaos a parent has going on in their personal life, through repetition and emotion, it will actually fire and wire this fear of abandonment. And then we have to ask ourselves, well, what happens next? And why do I keep finding myself in this situation as an adult now, all this time later from childhood and my upbringing, where I constantly feel like this abandonment is taking place? Well, here's a couple really important facts you want to understand. As soon as we have these imprints of experience, in other words, as soon as we have these conditioned patterns where basically neurons that fire together wire together, I'm sure you've heard that before. And whenever we have this repeated experience, it fires and wires this fear into our subconscious mind. We'll start to constantly fear abandonment. And you'll see this, right? Like the moment somebody doesn't text you back, quickly enough, or forgets to call you back, or is running late to something, like you probably have this abandonment sort of like anxiety feeling that comes up. Well, the reason is because whenever we have negative experiences that imprint our subconscious mind, we project them onto the future. In other words, we get afraid that they're going to recur again. And so we're basically constantly scanning our environment for these things to happen. And they become a part, unfortunately, of our own identity. Whatever fears we have wired into our mind, we basically believe on some level this is part of who we are and what will always happen to us. Now, how does this have anything to do with why these things get recreated as patterns? Why do you feel like there's this dynamic of constantly fearing this happening again? And the answer to this is because your subconscious mind wants to maintain what's familiar and what's safe. Once it has a program, it doesn't really care too much about how you're feeling emotionally. It's like, well, this is our program and we're here running over and over again. And so as a result of this, because you have the subconscious comfort zone, you will actually choose people and invest in people who are likely to mirror that back to you. Now, how does that even work? What does that even mean? I'm going to tell you exactly how. When you meet somebody, your conscious mind picks up roughly 40 to 60 bits per second of data, of information. Your subconscious and unconscious collectively pick up to a billion bits per second of data. So you're basically building this very intricate web of information about somebody else in the first little bit that you meet somebody. And that web of information consists of their micro expressions, their body language, their tone of voice, how quickly they do text you back after your interaction. All these little things that are happening are building this big web of information. And not all of this information makes it to your conscious mind. A lot of it's just this impression, this sort of deep impression of a person. Now, one of the biggest things your subconscious will invest in long term, or basically try to connect with, is people who literally mirror back to you the way you treat yourself, because that is what is most familiar and that is what's safest. When you have an abandonment wound, you're going to see this come full circle. When you have an abandonment wound, you end up, because it's familiar, actually abandoning yourself all the time on autopilot because you're so busy trying to not get abandoned by other people that you're people pleasing them. You're putting your feelings last, your needs last, your authentic truth, you're self silencing, you're not speaking up, you're putting all those things on the back burner. And so you will end up being most attracted to and investing in the longest the people in that web of information you're collecting who will also mirror back to you the way you treat yourself. And unfortunately, you also, there's another piece here that I want you to understand. Actually, before I go into this other piece, there's one last really important thing here, and we'll talk about how to change this. But if you are somebody who sees this and you're like, "Wow, I'm done with feeling this way," we actually have a whole course you can check out fully for free, just for a limited time, and it's all about reconditioning these anxious wounds. And I will put a link to that course down below. It helps you find exactly what the fears are and the wounds are. It's called the Emotional Mastery and Belief Reprogramming course, and you can check it out fully free for a limited time. It actually talks about how to reprogram these things. Not born with these wounds, they get fired and wired into your subconscious through repetition and emotion over time, and you can rewire them. Now, the last thing that is really important here to understand is that we also teach people how to treat us. Conditioning is happening all the time. So if you are meeting with somebody repeatedly, you're basically constantly conditioning them how to treat you through repetition and emotion. You're teaching them what to expect, how you're naturally going to show up. And so they build this web of information about you. Well, if you're constantly the person that puts yourself last, people pleases everybody, puts everybody first, even if that person's like, "Oh, wait, what about you?" and is trying to look out for you, over time, they're just going to get into this comfort zone with what they're used to for you. And so they'll start treating you exactly how you treat yourself because you're teaching them that. And unfortunately, this means that the more you abandon yourself, the more you are also teaching people, "I'm worthy of abandonment. My needs don't really matter. My feelings don't really matter too much. I'm just here to be of service to you in a one-way street and a one-way relationship." And when we pave the way in our lives for one-way relationships because we are not making space for ourselves and our feelings and our needs to take up space, and unfortunately, that's going to be the outcome that you keep getting in your life. So it's really important to realize that those abandonment wounds will cue people to discard you because you're investing in emotionally unavailable people. You'll see that you end up teaching people to literally mirror this back to you and treat you this way. And because we're in a position where we're constantly self abandoning.
If you're interested in helping make a huge impact on other people's lives while also building financial freedom, I'm offering an early bird 50% discount on our Integrated Attachment Theory Relationship Certification Program that will help you become a certified Integrated Attachment Theory relationship coach and build your own thriving practice by the end of 12 weeks. This 12-week on-demand program will help you kickstart your new career by teaching you revolutionary tools and strategies that help clients transform their lives and relationships. Build your own coaching practice and set yourself up for a waitlist of clients and financial success. Even if you have no coaching experience, this program will give you very in-depth tools, resources, and confidence to get started in a matter of weeks. And you can learn more information by clicking the link down below.
So, if you want to do a deeper dive, recondition these abandonment wounds once and for all, you can check out the Emotional Mastery and Belief Reprogramming course in the link fully for free for a limited time. Also, if you just want to see more content like this on a daily basis, please subscribe to this channel and hit the like button. Share this with somebody you think might need it. I put daily content out here on YouTube as well. Thank you so much for watching and for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video.